Welcome one and all to episode 31 of Titan Teatime. I'm Petter and this is James.
How's it going?
And today we're talking about the Return to Shiganshina arc of Attack on Titan, specifically the manga. And, obviously we read the whole manga before, so we are going to be talking about potentially anything both before and after this arc. So here's a spoiler warning for all of Attack on Titan. And the specific part of the story that we've focused on, well, the Return to Shiganshina arc is volumes 18 to 22, which is chapters 71 to 90. I'm not entirely sure exactly where the fandom usually deems this arc to begin, but this is how we're dividing it. So it's those 5 books, and I guess one thing I'll say just before we get into all of the discussions for this episode is that Season 4 Part 2 of the anime should be a couple episodes in by the time this episode releases. However, we're recording this before that season has started. We're a little under a week away from the season premiere, or well, the season part premiere, or whatever you want. But yeah, so we haven't actually seen it yet, but obviously hoping it's going to be amazing. I'm sure it will be.
I think this arc is the end in a way, because so many plot points that had been dangling in front of our faces were finally revealed and finally make sense.
Oh yes.
And we understand where these characters' positions are, not just within the story, but within the world and who they actually are. I don't know. It's kind of satisfying. Like
it really
is.
You
get to that basement, and obviously so much stuff happens on it. But culmination of all that, you get to the basement, you find out the secret, and you're like, "Wow, that's the truth. That's what we've been waiting to hear for so long." And then you realize by the end, wait a minute, we're not done. Like there's more to this.
Oh yes.
And I like to think the Return to Shiganshina arc is the end of one story, and then the Marley arc is the beginning of a new one.
In a way, it really is.
Yeah, right? I mean, obviously, it's the same story and with the same characters. Obviously, new ones are added come this next arc, but it does feel like this is the end of a tone, like a tonal shift for the story. Where it's kind of a little more fantastical in a way up until this point, and then you move on to the next arc. So I feel like this is a ending in a way, and this is and an ending that made a huge impact. I think it deserved all the praise it got. And I was rereading this, and the pages went flying by. I really adore this arc, and I think at the end of the day, it might be my favorite arc, but I think it is my favorite arc. Yeah. There's just so much is in there, and the highs are so consistent. It may not match some of the highs, like maybe there's even higher points in later arcs, but this one has just consistently high point after high point that I just adore it.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's a lot of fans' favorite arc. And it definitely, I know it was mine for a while.
Until the next arc.
Until the next, until I think it was after I had finished the Marley arc, I think that was when that one became my favorite, kind of when I had all of it. But yeah, no, like this is an absolutely incredible arc. So it definitely deserves all of the praise that it's getting. And it's just so rich in variation too. Because we get, the whole battle is like such an amazing piece at the start of it. And then all of the reveals from the basement, which is such a completely different type of content, which is just as good, but in a completely different way. So yeah, it really is an amazing arc. Truly, truly amazing. And I mean, the whole Midnight Sun chapter with,
oh gosh,
obviously that is a part of the story that fans will never stop talking about.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I mean, there are so many series defining moments in this arc. As I was reading, it's like, oh, I love this part. Oh, I love this part. Oh, right? I love this part.
Yeah.
Part after part. So I'm excited to talk about each and every one of them.
Hell yeah. All right.
Every page.
Yeah. We'll be here for like 5 or 6 hours. But yeah, getting into it, I love how kind of in the first book out of these five, we start to get Grisha's backstory together with Keith Shadis,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and by the end of the arc, we get even more of his backstory and having that lead up to the exact point where he meets Keith Shadis.
Hmm.
So like a large portion of Grisha's backstory really comes in these five books, and as a big Grisha fan, I'm obviously very happy with that. And I mean,
Yeah.
I've been talking a lot about how I love just how his story is told throughout the books, and with
Hmm.
these glimpses of flashbacks here and there, and sometimes we get big chunks of it, like the stuff from the basement, of course. But yeah, it's great, and obviously his whole story is amazing.
Yeah. He's kind of like the book ends to this arc.
Mm,
He kind of starts it and then ends it.
right.
Um, yeah, and yeah, it's incredibly sad what he has to go through. And when you first see him in Shadis's flashback, you don't really see the, I guess, tormented and tragic person there. You do see someone who supposedly is has his memory loss and is feels like he does feel kind of distant in some aspect,
Mm,
but you would never guess that this is the same man who lost his friends, family, and you know everything that was dear to him
mm.
through his own mistakes.
Oh yes,
And yeah, so it just makes Grisha all the more tragic when you compare it to what he was like within the walls.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it was this arc where I really started to appreciate Grisha's character like completely, truly.
Mm, yeah.
Obviously, I think it wasn't. I think it was in the past chapters with Aaron and Zeke much later when he became like one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah.
But these definitely brought him probably into my top 10 list somewhere. But Keith Shadis, he is not obviously he's not much in this arc, but he is, in the first chapter and or the first two chapters or whatever it was. But he, I guess, what I really appreciate regarding him is how he, like, we really see his sensitive side, which was
Hmm.
obviously nowhere to be seen, in the in the training arc. But it's just so cool to understand that this is, a round character. Like, he's a three-dimensional character. He's not just the inspector that we knew from the training days.
Mm, right. And I think it's a great connection to the beginning of the story. I mean,
Totally.
when you're first reading the manga, who thought that Shadis would come back? I,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would have predicted that.
Yeah.
Let alone him becoming a comparison to Snape. I mean, this guy is the Snape of Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
guess so. Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
right? Like the woman that he loves marries another guy that, I mean, maybe it's despise is the wrong word, but he definitely kind of has a grudge against him.
Some sort of jealousy at the very least.
Jealousy, yeah, yeah. And then he becomes the teacher of their child.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God. I never thought of
he
this.
sees the eyes. The eyes remind him of, well, the father, but so it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, it's kind of reversed there. But still, yeah. That is really funny. Wow.
And yeah, he's the Snape of the Attack on Titan universe. But I really like him for that because I do adore Snape, and I really like Shadis. I
Nice.
think this backstory for him does give him a rounded out character, and it really connects the beginning of the story to this arc, and it also answers some questions. For example,
Mm,
the uh, 3D maneuvering gear, the harness that Aaron had, it was Shadis the one that tampered with it.
indeed.
You know who? Wow, that was a reveal. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I really like that backstory, even though it's a small part. But there's also a message in there that's not necessarily from Shadis, but you hear it through Shadis
From Carla?
from Carla.
Mm.
I just really like it that Aaron doesn't need to be special. My baby doesn't need to be special. He's special because he was born into this world. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's something so beautiful about that.
It
Just
really is. It really is.
that motherly love.
Uh-huh.
And so I think Wit saw Carla. It's like, hey, how about we turn up the hot mom factor just a couple degrees.
Right.
Oh gosh, I can't believe I just said that. Anyway, no, I think Carla is very beautiful, and then Wit just took it 10 notches. but then she has this moment and just made me fall in love with her character even more. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm simping a little bit, but
That's
I
okay.
like, I really like the message that her character brings and how it
Mm.
kind of helps Aaron when he is really feeling down about his self-esteem and coming to realization that I'm not special per se, or he feels like he's a nobody, but you are special because you're born into this world. You know.
Yeah. It's amazing, and I like, yeah, I pretty much whenever I read this, or when I see the anime, the part of the anime, like it always gets me emotional when I see, or when I
Yeah.
hear her little. It's just a pretty short little speech, I suppose, but it's just so impactful and so
Mm-hmm.
good, especially at that part of the story.
Yeah. Agreed.
And something I had forgotten completely, a little kind of just passed by line in this arc, was that apparently Hanji used to have a crush on Shada's.
I wrote that down too
I
because I
had
was like,
not
wait,
remembered that
what?
at all. Like that was, yeah, just a fun
Uh,
little side thing, I suppose. But yeah.
hey, there is a Shottas fan base. Like,
Oh, there absolutely is. Yeah.
there are fangirls and I guess fanboys, for Shottas.
Mhm.
So Hanji, you're in good company.
Right. Hmm. Something I thought was a bit dumb was, like, and like something Aaron did during the
Hmm.
night before they went on the expedition, was when he and Jean started fighting. Aaron kind of mocks Jean for kind of having his hair grow out a bit more than he had, like, or like he says something about his long hair, but
Hmm.
Aaron's hair is just as long, if not longer.
Yeah.
And later in the
Yeah.
story, obviously, it's going to be even longer. So I feel like his words don't hold any weight there. Like, what kind of insult is that? Like, come on.
I really don't know, and maybe he wasn't thinking too much about it,
Fair.
Isayama,
Oh, we see him. Well, I guess Aaron didn't
or
think.
even Aaron. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was just, I guess they were kind of doing it just to let off steam,
Hmm.
and so as evident by Mikasa not stopping them, it's like, no, they need this. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. And another thing I found maybe not stupid but bizarre was Aaron, Mikasa, and Armin are chilling at the steps,
Oh yeah.
and then Armin's just talking about the ocean. Don't you remember that? We should go to the oceans. Yeah, you're right. But then Levi's just creeping up on him, just chilling in the back, listening on their conversation. Why? I know it matters for the certain, Midnight Sun portion.
Right.
Um, but to me, it just always like, why are you there? Why are you here? Like, don't you have something better to be doing? Like, are they in your cabin? Are, are you just like following them around? Like, why are you here?
Okay. I never really thought of it that way, but you're right. That is a
Why?
bit
Why is he
weird.
there? I mean, look, it it made well, it made somewhat of a difference come Midnight Sun chapter. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it was completely crucial for that.
right, right. So
Um,
I give it a slide there, but it's still just I don't understand what Levi was doing. I guess just
right.
maybe deep down he has a soft spot for these guys, and maybe he's been lurking for a while now.
Or maybe he was just chilling out where he was sitting there before they sat down outside. Maybe he was already there.
I guess so.
Maybe?
I can't remember if he walked up and sat down or if he was just already there. But
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah,
I
anyway.
I could accept that. I could accept that.
Yeah, yeah.
I know that's such a strange thing to be hung up on.
It is strange, but it was funny. So I liked it. I like it. Another part later that like pretty much always gets me emotional, similarly to Carla's little speech in the flashback, is
Mhm.
when the Survey Corps is about to depart and they're standing on the wall and Erwin starts screaming, kind of like just
Oh
victoriously,
yeah. Oh,
and it's
so
just,
good.
oh, so good, so good.
Ah, you compare the feeling of a pride of humanity and just I guess the feelings that are here for the people on the wall,
Mm.
versus, you know, the next few arcs, the next part of the story where it kind of feels a little wrong to have those, you know, kind of patriotic camaraderie type of feelings, like, because that's such a
Yeah.
crucial part of the fighting, is because it could be part of the division. But I don't know. It is like a strict contrast, because even those cries and those that kind of patriotism is used against the Survey Corps
Mm.
in the next in one of the next arcs. So it's a strict contrast. But I do miss those days where you have moments like this. Irvin setting the wall, screaming, "We will get this done," and
Yeah.
"We will bring freedom back." And yeah, it's just really, really great.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Totally.
I like Levi's resolve to want to stop Irvin from coming, but I also admire Irvin's resolve to, I guess, accomplishing his father's wish, or seeing if what his father was saying it is true or not.
Yeah.
Um, so I like their contrast there, and in the end, how Levi kind of bows bows out, and well, he lets Irvin do what he wants, you know.
Right.
Um, anyway, I just like their whole dynamic there, and I kind of butchered it, but
No, no,
I
but I think you got the point across.
yeah, it starts in this arc,
Mm.
or in this volume.
And for the next part of the story, once they leave Trost, the first thing I want to just point out, I guess, is Peak's Cart Titan design in this arc really bugs me. I know
Oh,
Isayama he
absolutely.
didn't have everything figured out, so obviously there were some things like that. But um, something I noticed, or at least I think I noticed, I could be mistaken, I suppose, but I haven't thought of this before, is that about halfway through this arc, it looks kind of like the Cart Titan design changes slightly.
I think it absolutely does.
Yeah, it's not like it's like kind of closer to where it is in the Marley arc and onward, but not quite there.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of where it goes to, because the first half is like nothing. Like, I mean, I guess the body is kind of like the Cart Titan always is, but
Uh-huh.
the face is nothing like Peak's Cart Titan in the first half. But in the second half, it's like more in that direction, but not quite there, sort of.
Right.
Something I noticed on this read through.
Yeah, the first time its mouth snout is much shorter, like a normal human face.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then towards the end of the arc, it's much longer because it has to start carrying things in its mouth. And so he changed that design.
Oh yeah.
It's not
That would have been why.
right,
Yeah.
but it's not quite the same as it is in Marley. It gets a further redesign,
Exactly.
for the better.
I
Uh,
agree. I think he made her nose smaller in
mhm.
Marley, like, because he still had a pretty big nose, like the nose, the human nose,
Yeah.
was still pretty big throughout this whole arc,
Hmm.
even though the face shapes changed. But then the nose got much smaller, I think, on the Titan, in Marley arc.
I mean, we do know that Peak was originally designed to be a man.
Exactly.
So, and I think the first Titan design kind of hints at that. Although you can never really,
Yeah.
no, you can't always tell with Titans if they were male or female as humans.
Right.
But it does feel like that he was going with the male
Hmm.
Titan transformer. Um, but then he probably switched. I don't know if it was during this arc, or before getting to Marley. He's like, you know what? We need another female
Right.
transformer.
And obviously, I think both you and I both are very happy that he went with and
Oh yes.
created Peak.
Oh yes. Absolutely.
Hmm.
So actually, going back, he says they're beyond the walls and they're in a forest outside of
Mm.
Shiganshina.
Yeah.
And Aaron is having kind of cold feet, a nervous breakdown, I guess you could say.
Mm.
Um, and then Armin's the one to comfort him, and he brings up the ocean again, I believe,
Yeah.
and that whole thing. And I really like that interaction with both of them, and it made me, as I was reading, I was like, wow, maybe Armin is actually plays a bigger role in this arc than I initially thought. Because obviously he has that grand moment later on, but
Hmm.
he's kind of been the push force for Aaron when he needs it most, at least here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I admire that about him. And even though he himself was shaking and scared, um, he wanted to make sure that Aaron was good.
Totally. And I really like also how in that moment when Armin mentions the outside world and their
Hmm.
shared dream of exploring it, that's when Aaron is able to relax a bit more and kind of, well, yeah, and to stop shaking.
Right.
And I think also later in the arc, Armin has a similar kind of moment with himself where he is thinking about the outside world, and that gives him courage, or it eases
Mm.
his mind. If I
Hmm.
recall, there was a moment like that. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's just so sweet. I think that both of them, for both of them, just thinking about the outside world or being reminded of it, helps them focus or gives them courage.
Absolutely. They really are amazing friends for each other, and
Mm.
that's why I think the final scene in the last chapter, both of them going through the world and talking to each other is
Uh
so
huh.
important. I don't think
Right.
many
Yeah.
people doubt that, but
Mm.
if you just have to go back to this arc and see how important they were for building each other up
Totally.
to understand why that was important.
Yeah.
I guess just since we're on Armin, I'll list some of the things he does that I feel like
Mm.
you know is incredibly important. He's the one who finds Bertolt. He kind of becomes a leader. He falters a bit, but he actually, in a couple of instances, he leads some of the Survey Corps to do certain things, and he comes up with the plans to find the armor Titan and take down the Colossal Titan. So it's very admirable. He gives the Aaron pep talk. We already talked about that. Takes down the Colossal. Well, comes up with the plan to take down the Colossal, and his key to doing that dies and then comes back. Like, there's so much, so much he does that I really. This is I think well, besides the first arc, the Trost arc, which I think he has some really incredible moments there,
Yeah.
and the little bits and pieces after that. This is the arc that made me just so impressed with Armin.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, understandably so. I understand that, especially his sacrifice at the end, or well,
Hmm.
at the end of the battle, I should say.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about the Marco scene at all?
Yeah, let's talk about the Marco scene. One of my favorite scenes, I will say. Just I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how many are my favorite scenes, but there you know there's a handful, and
So tell you.
this is at least one of my many favorite scenes, and it's just good for so many reasons, specifically for the four characters that we see in this, because we
Hmm.
got Marco, obviously just good to see him in general, but we also understand, well, really just how bright he was, and how just how good of a person he was.
Yeah.
um and also then Annie comes into the scene, and she just hates the fact that they have to kill Marco for, because he found out who Reiner and Bertolt was. So seeing
Right.
that side of her, which isn't really something we ever had seen up to this point in the
Hmm.
story, so seeing that side of her was just amazing. And we know that Bertolt was burdened with seeing his best friend's mental health just kind of spiraling down for years, and he was the only
Mm.
one who was there for him, and that is a huge burden in and of itself. And I think this scene shows those two extremes of Reiner's personality, and how Bertold, and I guess it gives us an understanding of what Bertold goes through daily, more or less.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think that's interesting for Bertold, and well, speaking of Reiner, of course, seeing his reactions to Marco's death and not understanding that he had been the cause of it, essentially, and all of that is
Hmm.
just so tragic. And also something that's kind of interesting that we learned, I think it was chapter 127, that Reiner supposedly killed that Titan right after it ate Marco.
Hmm.
Was something he mentioned around the campfire, if I recall.
Yeah, I think so.
But anyway, yeah, it's just such a great scene, like just such a powerful and just amazing scene for all of those four characters, and they just make it so great.
Also, kind of disturbing
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
I mean, just not just from the fact that they have to eat Marco, but after all that, Reiner just goes back to being Survey Corps Reiner. He's like, what's
Hmm.
happening to Marco? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like and as you were alluding to, Bertolt just sees it and he's just kind of freaked out.
Yeah, man.
Like, oh my gosh, who is this man?
Hmm.
Um, and there's this another scene where it answers something that was kind of a dangly carrot. What
Hmm.
really happened to Marco, and what about his 3D movement gear? Like, how did Annie get a hold of that and
Exactly.
whatnot?
Right.
Um, so it answers all those, and like you said, I like seeing the emotions from all of them. Especially Reiner and
Mm.
and Annie actually.
Yeah.
Um, and it just makes me think that for Annie, you see her as kind of a stone cold killer, but then in this moment, she was very distraught about it all.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think it just shows that maybe this is not as easy for her as maybe some readers would believe.
Yeah. And maybe that would, because I think when we talked about the female Titan arc, we were talking about why she was crying, why her Titan was crying
Mm, yeah.
after Levi and
Oh,
Mikasa left.
that's great.
Maybe, yeah, maybe it was because of this. Maybe she was feeling just all
Hmm.
this guilt piling up for
Yeah,
all the people she had killed, that maybe she realized that they didn't necessarily deserve to die like that.
I think that's perfect.
Maybe.
I, I don't think it's just a maybe. I think that's what it is.
Right,
I
right.
think.
Mm,
I mean, yeah, maybe it was a little bit frustration that she wasn't able to get Aaron, but I think
mm.
she does have deep regret for all the lives she had to take.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I think it's that deep, in my opinion.
yeah. And I guess while we're on some of the warriors, um, when Reiner, as in the form of his armored titan, climbs up the wall, and he's there, pretty much it's just him and Erwin are standing there, and then
Mm-hmm.
Aaron grabs his attention by transforming into his titan. But I just can't help but think that if Reiner had killed Erwin there, just like a
Yeah.
quick little smack before he jumped
Yeah.
off the wall, like it wouldn't have taken much
Mm-hmm.
time, and he easily could have done it. I feel like the Warriors would have probably won that battle, seeing as Erwin was crucial in defeating Zeke.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we can't know for sure, but it's just like one of those what if things that I can't help but think about a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of those moments where, from a warrior standpoint, it's like, I understand following the mission, but
Yeah.
you gotta play a little loosey goosey, right? Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
uh, I mean, who knows? Maybe Irvin. Did he have 3D movement gear? Maybe he would have been able to fly around quick enough.
That's
Heck,
fair. That's
who
fair.
knows?
Yeah, yeah, that is a possibility. So I guess with that possibility there, plus the fact that I guess it was kind of urgent. I guess he couldn't let Aaron escape. So I guess it does make sense that he would have needed to just go after Aaron ASAP.
Yeah.
I suppose.
But yeah, speaking of Reiner, watching it for the first time, because the I experienced most of this through the anime. Um, when I caught up, when I started reading the manga, I started, you know, I think around Midnight Sun, either the chapter before
Oh,
or
that's
at
right.
Midnight Sun.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, complicated thing. I can explain it later. Um, so a lot of this was new to me. So watching the anime, I was so frustrated
yeah.
just seeing Reiner get attacked and defeated in so many different ways, and then he still comes back. You know,
Yeah.
ah, I
Yeah.
you can't tell me that did not aggravate you before the Marley arc. Come
No,
on
no,
now.
no, no. I'm 100% in that boat with you, or I was.
Right, right. I'm not that way anymore,
I
obviously.
remember vividly. I don't think I read the entire arc in one go, but I at least read the
Uh huh.
entire battle in one go. It was like I think it was like Christmas 2017
Ooh, what a
or
Christmas.
something like that. Yeah, yeah. And because I was staying over at my parents' place, and I had brought some of the Attack on Titan books that I had ahead of me, because I was in the process of reading through them and catching up with the books. And so I had brought yeah, a handful of books. Luckily, I had brought several, not just one. And so I remember I spent like the entire evening or the night, like just reading, and I couldn't stop. Like I was like, oh my god, like I this it's just too good to stop. Like I was so invested,
Mm.
and yes, I remember clearly that I was really annoyed with Reiner, and
How does this man not
I
die?
just really I wished death upon him back then, which I am sad to say now, but yes, I did.
Yeah.
My first read through of this arc, and I was very annoyed with like Jean and Hanji for sparing his life, or well, yeah, sort of sparing his life, like later.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, but it's so good. It's so amazing how
No,
the
it's
story
good.
just twists like that. Because come the Marley arc, I fell in love with him completely. Like I always
Mm.
had the interest in him, like ever since the
Right.
Clash
Yeah.
arc. But
Hmm.
the Marley arc just completely turned me around on him, like, and actually made me love him. Like it's awesome. Anyway, yeah.
I think part of my frustration with Reiner was not so much his character. It was that I felt he would get beat, but then just come back somehow. Like it just felt so unfair, and that's what made it so frustrating. Um,
Okay.
you know, and I think for some people it was, oh, he's the enemy, traitor, kill him. I don't think it was
Yeah.
necessarily that for me because not that I felt that there was this deep backstory that we get in the Marley arc, but I did see this is the Reiner from these previous arcs, back in the training corps days. Like
Mm.
it was hard for me to completely hate him. That said, uh, I saw him as an enemy, and then when he kept getting out of the situations, it's aggravating. And I think what really tops it for me is towards the middle, I guess, of this battle when Bertolt appears and he becomes the Colossal Titan.
Yeah.
You have to deal with the Colossal Titan, the Beast Titan, and the Armor Titan. Armor Titan's, I guess, not necessarily 100%,
Right.
but they're still way stronger, way more prepared than the however many Survey Corps people are left.
Mm.
It just felt an insurmountable battle at that point. Like it was impossible. How could they possibly come out on top? And so that I remember just being so mad. Like I just can't. I can't. Okay, what happens next? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
but they do. They somehow pull it off, and it's incredible. And
Yeah.
another reason why I love this arc.
Right, yeah, like it really, like the stakes feel so high, and
Absolutely.
like the suspense is in the roof. It's just so
Hmm.
well executed, this whole sequence. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. It's
Uh
like, oh, it can't get any worse. The armor Titan's back up. Oh my
yeah.
gosh, what the?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess at that point we don't know that he's a bit weakened,
Yeah.
or at least not necessarily. But yeah, and like speaking of Bertolt coming down, flying down into Shiganshina, and
Hmm.
when he spoke to Armin, he was speaking and acting like we had never seen him that way before. The way he
Yeah.
he was in that conversation. We get a little bit of a potential explanation to that shortly after when he's swinging away, and through his thought monologue we kind of get or at least I got the impression that he was able to act this way because he was kind of indifferent to the whole conflict in some way. Like
Mm.
obviously he's on the side of the warriors or on the side of Marley, but
Mm.
he's more relaxed than usual because he feels like any outcome would be acceptable. At least
Mm.
that's what he was thinking in that moment. So I was thinking that perhaps that was the reason why he was acting so differently than or compared to how we've seen him before. But what do you think about that?
Yeah. It's hard. Like I wonder because previously he had called them devils and when they were running away and
Mm.
he seemed very well at the moment. It was he had just gotten the death stare from Mikasa, so I don't blame him
Yeah. Yeah.
for being a little afraid. But in this instance, he changes and he's kind of like, no, I mean, I don't think you guys are bad, but it's your ancestors and what he kind of like just speaks nonchalantly, and so I didn't know what to make of it, to be honest. Like
Mm.
it kind of confused me.
Yeah.
I guess he came to grips with, he separated their mission from the people. He's like, look, I have a mission to accomplish. I like you guys, but I also have a mission to do. So it's not my fault. Now, is that kind of where he's going with that? I'm not sure.
I mean, it could be something like that, something along those
Mm-hmm.
lines. At the very least, when he was swinging away after that, he was thinking that he feels like any outcome would be acceptable. That was what he, or at least one of the things that he was thinking there. So,
Actually,
hmm.
you know what I think it is that at that point he had accepted that the world was cruel, and
Yeah.
that despite having kind of grown up with these people, and really got to know them, that he still have to kill them. That was cruel. How Annie was taken away from them, that was cruel. The world that he comes from was cruel. So I think he just, at that point, accepted that it doesn't matter. Like, the world is cruel anyway. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, for sure, it could be something like that. Yeah. But moving on a little bit, and I'm gonna address something that you mentioned, or you kind of, you mentioned some of Armin's highlights from this arc, and
Mm.
I guess I didn't get the I didn't feel like I had the chance to address one of the things because it was kind of in the
Oh,
middle of
I'm
what you
sorry.
said. No, it's all good. But after Bertolt transforms into his Colossus Titan and Armin
Mm-hmm.
kind of struggles with coming up with a plan, this is one, or to me, one of the stronger scenes that make me put Jean's leadership skills above Armin's. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
we have debated this time and time again on this
Yes.
podcast, but this specific scene I think is especially strong because in it we see that Jean, well, we see Jean taking command in a much better way than Armin did in the moment. And we also see Jean being much more composed than Armin was at the time,
Mm-hmm.
followed by Armin admitting to Jean that he is better suited for that sort of thing than he is. Of course, we also get Jean telling Armin that he's counting on Armin, for a plan later on, like a plan to get them out of this,
Mm-hmm.
showing that Armin is the superior tactician and strategist out of the two of them. Like I have,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that's absolutely 100% true. But I think that Jean is the superior leader and commander out of the two of them, and I think this scene shows that quite well.
I still disagree.
I expected you would.
So, look, it's one thing to be able to say, "Oh, guys, just let's move over here. Come on." And look, Jean is a good leader, I think, and the people, Sasha and Connie and all those guys respect him greatly.
Hmm.
But I don't think because that in the moment, in this insurmountable moment, that Armin couldn't think of a plan, that makes John the better leader. I don't
No, it's not
think.
about a plan.
No, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
it
I
partially is about the
because
plan, but
John did have a plan.
hmm.
He was like, okay, we're gonna go over this way. Um, so yes, he was able to in the moment come up with something. In that moment, John has had moments where he does freeze up.
Sure,
So
absolutely. Mm.
I think just using this one moment to say, oh, John is a better leader, but Arm is a better tactician. I don't think that's the ultimate measurement. Like this is such a unique situation, and I mean, who would have an idea how to take down that thing? Um, but when Armin does get the idea, he takes command. He takes the reins, and not just because he has a plan. Well, yeah, yes, it is because he has a plan, but he realizes that okay, I have to tell everybody what they need to do, and that requires leadership,
He can
in
absolutely
my
tell.
opinion.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess we probably talked about like what is leadership and what kind of a leader and like those sorts of things. We have probably talked about all that before. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess the thing that I feel like Armin lacks, even though, or no, I guess I'm becoming torn on this.
Mm-hmm.
Armin is a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't want to fight
But,
that exactly.
I
I
think it's a
mm,
maybe different kind of leadership,
it really is. Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah, I think Jean is great at like these kind of spur in the moment, like under high pressure, leading groups of people in a in an effective way with not a lot of time and like those sorts of things. I think Jean excels there.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, Armin can come up with these very elaborate strategic plans that probably will work, but it's like not something you can come up with like under pressure, like in those sorts of situations, like the scene, for example, showed. But he could come up with the well, defeating the Colossus Titan, for
Hmm.
example,
Right.
where he had a little more time to think.
I agree 100% with what you're saying.
Mm.
Another thing that I think we have to keep in mind is Armin's self worth. His why can't the word was in my head earlier. His self confidence
Yes,
is really low.
it
I mean,
is.
even at this point in his life, it's
Mm-hmm.
despite having done so many things, he still lacks the confidence in himself and in his abilities to uh, take charge and even just come up with a minor plan like John does until he comes with the bigger plans.
Mm.
The pressure is maybe a bit too much for him at the time. But I think
Yeah.
that's the character growth for Armin is that eventually he gets to a point where he's able to feel confident about who he is, what his abilities are, and maybe that's
Mm.
I think that's what you see at the end, very end, where he basically becomes the mouthpiece for the Eldian people
Yeah.
in trying to have peace.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Like coming up
so
there to talk
uh huh,
to the other well, to the
right.
Marleyans there in the final chapter. Absolutely.
And John is there as well, just adding his voice. I just think that
Mm.
because Armin is a, such a great tactician and has some leadership qualities that maybe John doesn't. But John has other things that Armin doesn't have.
Yeah.
But what Armin has, I think, just makes him a more suitable leader. Um, in a similar vein to Irvin, yes, different personalities, but I think what Irvin brought to the table, Armin can as well. In some cases,
I
at least as a tactician.
yeah, yeah. As a tactician, I can agree, and maybe he has. I mean, there is room to grow for sure, but
Hmm.
I guess I can't know for sure if he can truly fill Irvin's shoes. I mean, he has other things that Irvin doesn't, so obviously there's that too. But um, I guess one last thing I'd like to say on Jean is something I don't necessarily think I had really picked up on before, but that I picked up on this time. It's just his optimistic way of thinking and of kind of looking at the tough situations ahead of them is that he really has this kind of just positive outlook even in these very dire situations,
Hmm.
which I admire him a lot for, which I thought was just cool. And yeah, as I said, I hadn't really necessarily thought of it before this read through today. But but yeah, like yeah, different types of leaders. But I think yeah, this scene and the scene later in the when Zeke transforms the Titans in, or well, the people in Shiganshina into Titans in the last arc,
Hmm.
and they're clearing out Shiganshina and like killing the Titans in Shiganshina. That's another instance where I think Jean, just kind of in the moment under that pressure, is able to lead a lot of the people to deal with that. Um, and yeah, like different qualities for sure. Have you and I finally agreed kind of on where we stand on Jean and Armin? I kind of feel like it sort of sounds like it more than before anyway.
I think so. I I think so. I think part of it was we were debating who should be the head of the survey corps,
I suppose.
or who would be the good leader, and
Mhm.
then obviously Hanji put it into that discussion. But I think that um, yeah, I think we've come to an agreement in a sense, and I'm totally fine with that, and um,
At long last.
at long last.
Well, Erwin's final chat with Levi and his final speech to the Survey Corps recruits and his final charge, obviously, like that entire package, another just masterful piece of writing, I think, from
Absolutely.
Isayama. Just so good and so powerful, and it always gets me emotional as well. This I think this arc has a lot of those little pieces, and I guess Erwin has more like a lot of it's from Erwin, I think, like with his flashbacks and with the scream on the wall. That's what I'm pointing out earlier, and then all of this here, it's just all so good. And even his death is honestly one of my favorite. part. Like, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's
That charge.
I will say his death is my favorite death in the series.
Mm.
Because of, well, the charge, I guess, is part of it, like, leading up to his death, but also like the aftermath of his death, or well, I guess he wasn't technically dead yet when Flock brought him in there,
Hmm.
but like obviously that whole thing is kind of like related to his death, and ultimately the reason why Levi, well, essentially chooses to let him die there is, to let him rest in peace essentially, and it's all just so neatly tied together. His entire like character arc uh, is tied together with his death there. It's incredibly sad and it's
Hmm.
definitely bittersweet, but it's just so well written.
Yeah, it's incredibly tragic.
Hmm.
Um, and the man had a dream, and he felt like that dream would be accomplished in the basement, and he never got to go see it.
Yeah.
That, it's hard, but it's beautifully tragic in that way. And I think
Hmm.
his life ending in the way it did, leading his men um, to accomplish his dreams, uh, I think makes a lot of sense and is poetic in that way, and it fits the series really well, I think.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I love his, like you were saying, his speech to the troops and bringing up the death of past Survey Corps members.
Hmm.
Were their deaths for nothing? No, they weren't. And your fight gives meaning to those soldiers' lives. I
Yeah.
love that.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
and yes, you could argue it's a bit manipulative, but that's, as a leader, and especially in the circumstances they were in,
Hmm.
that's just kind of the devil you have to play.
Right.
And I see where they go, where they're coming from when they mention him as the devil.
Right.
Um, but but still, it's so emotional. And then the charge where he says, "My soldiers rage, my soldiers scream." Oh gosh, and then that animated is so powerful as well.
It
Like, oh
is.
gosh,
Yeah, they
it's
really
great.
nailed that. Yeah, and the voice
They
acting
did.
delivery. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's so
Mm,
good.
absolutely.
So
So
good.
yeah, all around, that's another one of the greatest scenes of Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
Again, from this arc, and not not just the anime, but I think Volume 20 is one of the greatest volumes in this series. Like,
Yeah.
this,
Hmm.
there are so many high points in this volume, and it is just fantastic. From Irvin's charge, his death, and then I believe Armin's sacrifice.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Both of their sacrifices are in that book.
Right.
And well, Marlowe, I just wanted to mention Marlowe a little bit.
Oh yeah,
He
that's
his
yeah.
sacrifice as well. I suppose he's a much smaller character, but
I mean, I feel bad.
yeah, you really do. Yeah, right? And yeah, we talked about this last month a bit with, regarding him and Hitch, and how
Right.
there was definitely a thing going there for, a mutual thing. Well, not a spoken thing, but a mutual feeling, I think.
So here's
Uh,
my headcanon.
mhm.
Is Hitch definitely had feelings, and it was really kind of shy about it.
Uh-huh.
Soon today, all
Oh,
that jazz.
totally, yeah.
Um, and then Marlowe, I think, was just oblivious to it. But at the end,
Mm.
I think he realizes that, because he's like, "Oh, so silly. Why am I thinking about her that time? Right before I die."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of a realization how much he cares for her. And then he dies, and then it's really sad
It's incredibly sad.
because Isayama's just like, what if I put just a little panel of Hitch just chilling, right after Marlowe's death? What if I did that? What if I did
Oh.
that? It's Isayama, you son of. Okay, cool. Oh, I love you,
Oh.
Isayama. So yeah, it's very emotional for
Mm.
like we've said repeatedly. He's a minor character, so is Hitch, but it's still just so strong.
It hits, yeah, it hits surprisingly hard. It really does.
Yeah.
And also, and having seen Marlowe, well, we got to see him as early as the female Titan arc, and like just kind
Hmm.
of we got to understand who he was. But I thought it was also kind of a special thing to see him in this, well, in the situation of the Survey Corps, just how strong-willed he is, and how like for like completely fresh Service Corps recruit, he was incredibly brave and headstrong,
Yeah.
and just he was he really was very professional and did a great job at the Service
Man.
Corps.
Another punch to the gut is the fact that Flock survived and Marlowe died. It's like, why?
Yeah. Give us the what if where it was reversed.
Yeah, right. How would that have gone down? Who would Aaron's kind of right hand man be? I don't understand Flock's and Aaron's relate. Did Aaron even give a crap about the guy? I don't know.
I don't think he
Like,
actually did. I think he really. I think he just used him.
yeah,
You know.
basically.
Mm.
Which part of me, when you put it like that way, I'm like, ooh, I like that. He deserves it. No, I know it's terrible. I'm a terrible person. But honestly, by the end of this arc, I'm just thinking, wow, Floke is a giant piece of garbage. Like I do not like him. And then he gets even worse. So, yay.
Yeah, he definitely gets worse. Because honestly, after this arc, I still respected him to some extent. Because sure, he expresses himself in some very rude and uncool ways. Like I'm not arguing with that, but he. I don't know. Like he has rights to to voice his opinion. Like
You're right. He is.
And when he points that out, I'm like, yeah, actually, you're right. I guess I can't really argue with that. But yeah, you're still a dick, though.
Yeah, well, you were on Team Irvin to begin with anyway. So, of course you would sympathize with him. No. So, I get it. I get that it's important to have different opinions and that he's fair to have his own. And I'm glad that a character like this does exist because it's a great contrast. It's just, he goes about it such in a standoffish way and just insults everybody left and right. And it's like, brah, who are you? Like, like what? I mean, I don't care if you're the freaking queen of parody. Like, you don't get to say that crap.
No, I agree with that completely.
Not that Historia would ever say that, but
only in never mind.
Only in fanfics.
I was gonna say only in my dreams, but then I see that's why I stopped myself. Then you made me say it anyway.
Edit that out. That's my bad. I didn't know where I was digging. It's like go back. No, so going back to Irvin and his death, and then talking about Armin's death, I think Irvin and Armin have parallelisms here, and I know earlier I mentioned that they have a strong comparison, and you could consider them similar, and I understand that that's not completely true. They are definitely different personalities, and I don't think Irvin's mindset is the same as Armin's, but they do end up, I guess, doing similar things. Like their actions lead to similar, I guess, consequences.
Yeah.
But let me say just a couple of things. They both sacrifice themselves. They both have a dream relating to outside the wall, and both are clever tacticians. So that's how I saw, kind of a comparison. And they both technically die.
Right.
One stays dead, and yeah, there's just it's interesting to see both their journeys, at least within the story up to that point.
Yeah.
Then one ends and the other continues. So.
Right. Yeah. And on that, I also think because they each were the one that came up with the respective plan that would lead to their almost death.
Right.
And Erwin went into it saying that if I do this, I am going to die, and as well as all of the recruits going along with me.
Yeah.
Armin, however, when he proposed his plan to Eren, said that he would not die, that he would let go before it was too late. I don't think he ever actually intended for that to be the case. I think he went into it knowing that he would die. Or prepared to die. I think he was lying.
He was definitely lying.
Yeah, right. And he was telling that, have I ever lied to you? I think that was, just to kind of make Eren believe him even more, kind of, even though he was totally lying there. So I guess I think they were both prepared and expecting to die,
Hmm.
even though Armin wasn't. I guess he wasn't saying that, but I think that's another similarity, I suppose. And I guess on Armin's almost death, I think
Yeah.
something that I guess it's a nitpick, but
Okay.
first he was scorched for a long time, supposedly,
Hmm.
which probably that in and of itself maybe should have killed him. But I can buy that in and of itself didn't. I can buy that. But right after he was finished being burned like that, he fell 50 meters.
Yeah. Yeah.
That if he wasn't already dead, that should have killed him. That fall should have killed him. I feel. But yeah, I know it's just a nitpick, and I didn't think of it like the first time I read this. I didn't like
Right.
think of that fall having been there, but that fall, man,
No, you're right.
though.
It's true. Um, and I can't really say anything to it other than suspense. Like
Yeah, yeah.
just adds to it. And although to be fair, uh, how is the heck is Irvin still alive? He loses a part of his stomach.
Yeah.
Like he should have been dead. So I don't know. At this moment, I think both of their lives seem a little maybe too good to be true. But I will succeed that Armin's death seems a little less believable particularly because of the fall.
I suppose so. Yeah, yeah.
It's just like wow.
Oh well.
But actually, can we talk about? I kind of jumped to that comparison because I was so excited
Mhm.
to talk about it. But just let's talk about that plan that Armin comes up with because I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's uh, really ingenious and really just satisfying because
Oh
you get
yes.
you get the I'm still concussed, Aaron falls down, and when I started watching it, it was like, oh crap, what's gonna go down, and then
Yeah.
Armin's like, oh crap, well I guess I gotta go on with the plan anyway. He gets burned to a crisp, but little does he know Aaron is filling up the hole, and next thing Bertolt knows, he's got Aaron behind him getting ready for that perfect slice. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, is that satisfying? Because you go back to the Trust arc when it was Bertolt as a Colossal Titan and Aaron, like that's where it started, man. Like
Yeah. Or
it's
yeah. Or I mean, I guess
well,
yeah, like
in a
the
way.
Shiganshina, the fall of Shiganshina part, like the very first chapter
Hmm.
when the Colossal Titan's face became the face of evil, I guess, for the series.
Right.
And now,
So
yeah.
just one of those iconic moments, and then this is all of that culmination into
Yeah.
one slice. They finally defeat the Colossal Titan, and it's just
Mm.
incredibly satisfying. There are few moments in media that I've had
Uh-huh.
as satisfying as this one.
Agreed.
It's so good.
It really is. Really is. And it's so interesting also that it's a character like Bertolt, like that's beneath that or like that's behind that. Is like I don't hate Bertolt.
No, I
And
don't.
and I and he is such a yeah, he's really not the kind of guy you'd expect, but still seeing the Colossal Titan fall
It's
is
the Colossal
incredibly
itself. Yeah,
satisfying. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and also Aaron being the one to do it.
Yes, 100%.
That just makes it even better, especially since you're not really expecting Aaron to come out with 3DM gear doing the job. You know what I mean? Like you'd expect him to be a Titan and do something.
Right. Oh yeah, that's right.
Uh,
That's right.
that's why the plan is so ingenious because it kind of suspends your beliefs
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah. No, it's a great plan. And really good acting from both
Yeah,
Aaron and
very
Armin
good
there.
acting.
Definitely fooled me.
Volume 20, everybody. Volume 20.
Right, yes. Yeah, phenomenal volume. But moving into to Midnight Sun and that whole conflict,
Oh boy.
Levi says, "I'm choosing to keep alive the man who will save humanity."
Hmm.
And he says that referring to Erwin, because that was before he changed his mind to save Armin instead. But I think his words are still true. Like they're true for Armin, because
Right.
Armin was the one who convinced Zeke to end the rumbling, hence
Yeah.
saving humanity, or well, at least saving
Hmm.
the 20% that were left. So I like how even though it wasn't intentional of Levi to say that, he was still
Hmm.
right with those words.
Right. Agreed. And even going further, I think Armin's peace talks hopefully kept some peace within humanity for a little bit. Obviously, the ending is up for debate and how long that lasted,
Mm,
but I think that it goes to say he did a lot to help save humanity in some way.
absolutely. And another thing, kind of a similar little thing that I thought was interesting was when Flock comes, he says, "The only one who can destroy all the Titans is the devil himself," referring to Erwin as well.
Mm,
But it's actually true for Eren,
yeah. Wow, I didn't think about that one.
who Flock obviously starts following later.
Mm,
And not only is that interesting, well, from that point of view, kind of seeing as how
mm-hmm.
well Eren is the devil, and I guess Eren. Well, I don't disagree with people calling him a devil as well, but Eren definitely is a worse devil, and and and
Yeah.
and how well he was the one who destroyed all the Titans, and he was the only one
Mm-hmm.
who I guess really could do that. Um, but it's also, I guess, another little side point of that I think is to anyone who hates Flock, or who hates the writing of Flock, because I know there are some people that do that.
Mm,
I think this is one of the signs that shows just how consistent of a character he actually is, because
mm,
he is essentially at the core of his character, he what he is a coward who follows the strongest person essentially.
mm,
And in this moment, he thinks that's Erwin, and he thinks Erwin is the one that can destroy the Titans. That's why he's rooting for Erwin to get saved. But later on, after the 4 year, or during slash after the 4 year time skip, he switches to Aaron's side because that's where he sees the best future with Aaron. Because Aaron has
mm-hmm.
probably shared some stuff perhaps with him and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, it's who he is. He is a coward who follows whoever he thinks will win because he is afraid of losing,
Yeah.
and it's consistent throughout the whole or throughout his whole arc.
The coward with the mouth.
Absolutely, yeah.
But just speaking about this chapter and the conflict it brings, when I first watched it, I honestly I was I mean, yeah, I was emotional and everything, but I was on Team Armin the whole time, and when it happened, I was relieved, but also I was like, yeah, like that makes sense. I did not realize how much of a conflict it was until kind of getting into the fan base and realizing that there were quite a few people, maybe even maybe majority, I don't know, of people who thought Irvin should have been the one, or Ervin should have been the one to live. You
So
know?
on most of the polls that I've seen, because I've seen at various points in time, I've seen polls made for this. I think you heard Big Girls, who they were doing the monthly polls for their
Mm-hmm.
podcast as the chapters were coming out. I think on a couple different occasions they had this question asked,
Hmm.
and if I recall, at least, pretty much always, it was more or less a 50-50 split, which is
Oh
really
wow,
fun.
that's
Like it's
surprising.
so
Yeah.
it's really interesting to me, and it's just so cool how ECM was able to create the story the way he did and
Mm-hmm.
make the fandom so evenly split, as at least I
Yeah.
think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, and yeah, it just goes to show his great writing skills in that, and
Mm.
I probably to this day people. I mean, as the manga was ending, it's like, oh man, if Edwin was here, this this never would have happened, or he would have joined the Jaeger. It's like, okay, slow down there, buddy, slow down there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's fascinating to hear those what if scenarios,
Hmm.
but I do think at the end of the day, Armin is the right choice, and not to say that Irving couldn't have gotten it done or had a great impact on the story, but I don't know if he would have been able to connect to Zeke like Armin did at that moment, or
Yeah.
reached out to Aaron in the same way, you know?
Right. Yeah. No.
Um,
Absolutely.
mm,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in the moment, my first time reading this, definitely was rooting for Erwin, but I was also not really thinking. I get, or I mean, I was thinking. I was thinking a lot about it from a I guess from the point of view that a character in the world would.
Hmm.
And with that
Mm-hmm.
mindset, I was rooting for Erwin, and I mean, I do like his character more than Armin as well, just me personally. So
Sure.
I guess for that, so for those two reasons, I settled on Erwin. But looking back now, well, first of all, I don't know technically which would have been the better choice. I guess I couldn't say.
Mm-hmm.
I guess no one can say for sure because we don't know what would have happened with
Yeah.
Erwin.
It's all
Um,
theories, you know.
right. But I think just from a narrative standpoint, or like just from the story's point of view, it makes so much more sense for it to be Armin. Like, there's no way it would have been Erwin, since not only is Armin one of the main three, like
Right.
it's their story. So for Armin's story, like arc to get cut off there, would have, I think, harmed the overall story more than it would have done any good. Um, Plus the whole drama that it causes with all like so many other characters in the world thinking it
Mm-hmm.
should have been Erwin instead. Obviously, that kind of backlash wasn't something we would have gotten if Erwin would have been picked.
Absolutely.
So I think for that purpose, it was also a good thing that they picked Armin.
I think Erwin would have been an interesting choice as well, but I do think Armin is the more interesting choice, at least for the story that's being set up.
Exactly.
Um,
Plus, as I said before,
mhm.
Erwin's death is my favorite death in the whole series. So,
Right. It's
in a
beautifully
sense, I guess I'm
tragic.
happy about it.
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah. I mean, it's a well done death. Like, there's no denying that
right.
whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, it builds up um, some conflict, over Armin being the potential future replacement for this great leader.
Yeah.
Um, but Levi also brings up, it's like, no, you're never going to be him, but you're not supposed to be him.
Right.
You know, you're supposed to be who you are, who you're meant to become. And I'm paraphrasing obviously, but I do really think he takes on that role of a leader in a different way, um,
Hmm.
but also a necessary way. A
Yeah.
way that only he could do.
For sure. For sure.
Um, Makes it his own,
Hmm.
in a similar way that Hanji did, in a way.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Right. It really just goes to show that all of the characters are different and have their own
Right.
strengths and
They can't be
weaknesses.
the same exactly.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I also thought it was kind of neat that there were exactly 9 survivors at the end of the whole battle in Shiganshina.
I
Just well,
didn't even
nine,
put that
obviously,
together.
the 9 Titans and all that.
Good point. Good point.
uh, but yeah,
Why didn't they all become Titans? Like, come on.
yeah,
I Faye's death, it just is leaves an emotional scar on me. Like,
yeah.
it's messed up.
It is.
There's a lot of messed up things that happen, but this is the hmm, I don't know if I can say first, but this is one of the few times where you have humans doing incredibly terrible things to not just another human, but a child.
Yeah, like an 8 year
Um,
old girl. It's awful.
right.
It's yeah. It's really like whenever I get to that part, I always like feel this kind of jab in my heart, kind of like that kind of feeling is like, oh, like it's just so unsettling and disgusting.
Disgusting, yeah.
Hmm.
The little girl we failed to protect.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it just adds to Grisha's tragic story and
Hmm.
gives fuel to his hatred at that point. And one bad mistake leads to another.
Yeah.
Um, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, his whole kind of life in Marley was just incredibly sad with how, and I guess this is a pretty realistic and I guess sadly normal thing, I suppose, with how a parent uh kind of obviously not everybody, but
Indoctrinates.
right, yeah, but I do think it is sadly kind of regular, at least somewhat regular. I don't know exactly any numbers, but it definitely happens all the time. And
Yeah,
it's just so sad how not only was Grisha on the receiving end of it, but he was also doing it to his own son.
right.
Just makes it even more sad.
It's unfortunate. And I love how we get Zeke's side of it later on. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about it now, but
Hmm.
it's great that we get both sides to it.
Exactly. Yeah. I really like the amount of it that we get here, and so that we leave it
Hmm.
for Zeke's backstory later, and then the past chapters we get even more on Grisha at least.
Because in Grisha's point of view, it's not it doesn't seem as bad. I mean, yes, it's bad. Like he understands he goofed up, but there seems to be a little more care into it. But then you get Zeke's point of view, and it's entirely like different. Like he
Yeah.
seems like a madman in a way.
Right.
There's a point where they mention the Eldians that were left in Marley, and I just wondered why again were there Eldians left in Marley if King Fritz's goal was to basically trap them all. Besides, and obviously they had the Tiber family; they were still in Marley,
Right. Yeah.
basically pulling the strings. But why still have some Eldians there?
I mean, there were millions of Eldians, I suppose, and like I guess it would have
Uh,
been impossible to get everyone along to parody, I guess.
maybe. What do you think? It's a darker reason, like maybe to use them as weapons. Like that was the agreement.
Oh, ooh. I mean, I suppose it's possible.
Because they do use them as weapons. So maybe the people who are left in Marley, the Eldians left in Marley, are the really sad ones. They were left behind
They were left behind on
just to be
purpose, supposedly, in that
just to be
case.
weapons, maybe.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my God. That is an interesting thought. I could definitely see that being the case. I think it would make sense given what we know about the
Right?
world.
But who knows?
Right. Yeah. We can't say for sure, but definitely an interesting thought. I like that. Or I don't like that, but I like
No, no, I get you.
that.
I get you. Um, and I'll have more to say on all of that come the Marley arc. Oh, I'll
Mm.
have so much to say
Oh
about that
yes. Oh
come the Marley
yes.
arc. Um,
Hmm.
but anyway, so that was just something I thought about. And then just Kruger. I, the owl it was so interesting, and I love that kind of mini espionage type of story that was going on in there.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about this before, but it would be so great to get a Titan War and then lead up to
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Kruger getting the Attack Titan somehow.
Yeah.
Or maybe just having a little series on a short story series on Aaron Kruger and how he came to be, because that seems like such a
Yeah.
fascinating character.
Absolutely.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, like seeing his family burned to death in his home.
Oh
Like
gosh. Yeah.
that panel, or like yeah, we get like one little panel where we see his view of his family burning. Like that is
Hmm.
one of the more gruesome panels I think like throughout the series. Obviously there's
For
plenty,
sure.
but it's definitely up there
Yeah.
somewhere. I think it's
Hmm.
just terrifying.
But then where does he go from there? Somehow
Yeah.
he infiltrates it with the Doctor's help, and he gets the Attack Titan. So it's there's a lot of clues that could be dived into more, and I would love to hear it. But
Absolutely.
anyway.
That is all actually that is an interesting another thing that I always kind of thought a bit about, but I don't think I ever talked about it. Is it's said that Marley has 7 of the 9 Titans. It's said that they had them when the Great Titan War ended, like when King Fritz and a bunch of the Eldians settled on Paradis, and when I guess this era began,
Hmm.
they had acquired 7 of the 9 Titans. And it's said again, I think, when Grisha and or like well in Grisha's time, it's also said. Well, I think when they're starting the whole warrior program, they say they have 7 of the 9 Titans, if I recall.
Right.
Which is like so we know the founding Titan is on Paradis, so that's one of the ones that they don't have. And I would
Hmm.
assume that the Warhammer that they don't count the Warhammer because that one is in possession of the Tiber family, so it's not technically in like the Marley government
Mm.
in the same sense, which leaves all of the others to be the ones that they claim to have. That means they would have had the Attack Titan before Kruger somehow got his hands on it. But for some reason, even after Kruger got it, they're still claiming that they have it. And I just feel like that my only explanation to that, if I'm right in assuming that the Attack Titan is the 7th, then they just keep saying they have seven to not, I guess to save face, kind of, or to like to not reveal that they've messed up and lost one of the seven.
That could definitely be. I think another possibility is that they do indeed count the Warhammer Titan
Yeah, yeah,
as
that
one,
is possible too.
and that maybe, and so it makes you wonder, well, how did Kruger the attack on Titan, the attack Titan,
Right.
and I guess maybe the attack Titan has just been hiding, and it's been passed down from Eldian to Eldian until it got to Kruger somehow.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so instead of Kruger stealing it from Marley, it was bestowed upon him because of the position he was in.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Dude. Yeah. I could definitely see that too. Right. And yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is definitely one question that could be answered in
Right?
some sort of Kruger series.
And it's
Or
such a cool character
he
too.
is. He
Man.
really is. Even though he's just there for like a couple of chapters, he really
Yeah.
is. He really is interesting.
Yeah, and part of what makes him interesting is the line he says when he mentions Mikasa and Armin, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, whose memories are those? I have no idea." Um, Obviously, there's so many. There's other things that make him interesting. You know, what he tells uh, Grisha, and just his general personality. But
Hmm.
this was the line that had me theorizing for months, maybe years,
Yeah.
about what that could mean. Um, and this was kind of the new carrot after we had so much revealed. This was the new carrot that kept me going.
For sure. Yeah.
uh,
Definitely one of the new big ones. Yeah.
right. I mean, there were a few, and as we got into Marley, our more came. But
Hmm.
this is the one, um, for a bit that I had no idea. I even like thought in some embarrassing theories. I even thought, oh, maybe Mikasa and Armin are names of uh, the original Titan holders so long ago, and he's looking back on memories like that. Oh, um,
Ah.
clearly it was Aaron's memories that he was seeing, and Isayama was hinting at the whole time paradox slash uh, Attack on Titan, or dang it, Attack Titan
Hmm.
being able to see future
Yeah.
memories.
Could have also been Grisha's future memories.
That as well. That's possible.
In fact, I think, or at least I guess this might also be considered headcanon, but what I sort of imagine that memory coming from specifically, the
Hmm.
one that Kruger gets there, or Aaron Kruger gets there, is when Grisha gives the injection to Aaron. He says something along the lines of you got to save you got to save them all, or you got to like he in that moment right there where Aaron is, well, when he
He
becomes
says
a
avenge
Titan.
your mother as well, right?
He probably that as well, yeah. But I think at least he does. I think he mentions Armin and Mikasa at the very least. So I could see that as that somehow having been sent, like that memory having been sent to Kruger's mind or something. Perhaps.
But isn't that just Aaron pushing it? Like
I don't know how that would work.
him him like yeah. I mean, well, it's kind of complicated, I guess, in that sense. But
Yeah, because we don't know exactly all of the scenarios that Aaron and Zeke revisited in the paths. Because if Aaron had actively influenced Grisha, it would have had to be through paths, I think.
well, yeah. But also he could choose what memories he would show
Yeah,
um,
right.
the holders as well. So
Precisely. We just don't know which ones they went to and where and what he chose to do and all that, I guess.
well, just to clarify, it didn't have to be the ones that he went to that is what they saw, right? Like it could just be Aaron just allowed the Titan holders to see certain memories, certain Aaron memories, just willy nilly.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess
Not because he was in path. Well, I guess eventually with the path.
I guess we
Anyway,
don't know exactly what sort of power Aaron had over that, like how he could
hmm,
control that. I guess we don't really know that for sure.
hmm.
The only thing, okay, so yeah, I guess because of that, I don't. I guess I try to not think too much about that, but rather that whatever he did in paths was something he had much more control over, and that's perhaps where he could do the most or make more of a difference potentially.
Hmm.
but I don't know. It's still a bit of a mystery.
But here's what gets me is that he Grisha sees like the grave thing that Aaron does. Like he see because Aaron lets him see it. But we don't see that when he's in paths, with Zeke and everything. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's obviously some sort of like memory pushing happening that Aaron does allow the viewers to see certain things that he wants them to in order to influence them.
Either that or it happens on accident. Plus, Aaron had a lot of time in paths with Emir, only the two of them.
Hmm.
So he could have also done a lot of influencing
Yeah, at that
then,
point as well.
kind of after
Hmm.
Zeke, after the whole
Hmm.
Zeke part. But yeah,
That's true as well. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's just really fascinating stuff about Attack Titan,
yeah,
and I guess this is where we get its name, right?
it is.
I
Yes.
I do remember hearing the name. It was like, really, Attack Titan?
Well, I guess technically we got the name right as the series was created.
Oh, really?
I mean, Shingeki no Kyojin.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's
That's what I mean. Like, it was just too on the nose, It's
yeah.
really.
I do like how it's the same as the title of the series in Japanese.
Yeah,
I feel
fair.
like if they had known that, when they made the English title, well, if even ECM had known it, maybe he didn't even know it himself. Um,
Hmm.
then maybe the English title would have been maybe Attacking Titan. I think like that could have worked.
Yeah, Shingeki no Kyojin does have a better ring to it than
Mm,
Attack Titan.
I agree. I agree. But it's what we got. Um, when Aaron says the name of his Titan or of the Attack Titan for the first time, and he's striking that edgy pose, and Hanji sees it and is like what's up with that? I thought that was so funny how both then and also later on in the meeting with
Hmm.
the exactly they kind of just have this gag of Aaron going through a phase like how
He's in
that
that phase. He's in the Chunibyo phase,
I like that.
Oh, my arm, it stings, like, it needs nourishment.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like, I love that gag.
yeah. And another scene also from the disciplinary unit, well, the jail, the prison area, when Aaron says, "I feel like I just woke up from the longest dream." That's the same thing that he says at the beginning of chapter 1 when he wakes
Yeah.
up under the tree.
Mm-hmm.
The same line, pretty much. So I thought that was a nice thing. I don't think I had picked up on that before, that he says that here. Obviously, the second to last chapter is called A Long Dream, so that's obviously a reference
Mm-hmm.
to that. But I had forgotten about this little reference to it as well.
I think it implies that indeed what he saw under the tree was a memory. Like, maybe it was his entire life, or maybe it was a
Yeah,
certain moment where Aaron lops ahead, or maybe it was their
right.
log cabin paradise. Who knows? But
Exactly.
the point is, it was a memory that he was seeing that made him cry.
Yeah, I think that's the main point of that. I like to think that what he saw, and I've said this before, but I like to think that what he saw when he woke up from under the tree was basically his whole life,
Mm.
just in one big dream in his entire life. But what I think he saw here was basically his father's entire life.
Mm.
So, or more or less at least.
Makes sense.
And we get Emir's backstory as well through her letter to Historia,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
which I can't remember. We probably have touched on it on the podcast before, but in the
Mm.
anime, it goes in the Clash of the Titans arc. We get her backstory already that early, which I did not like that whatsoever. I guess when I watched season 2 of the anime, which is when that was portrayed,
Mm-hmm.
I was just incredibly confused by it. I did like
I, as was
there's
I.
just so much we don't know yet, and I feel like it's premature. I feel like it was premature of the anime team to put that so soon or so
Mm-hmm.
early in the story. 'Cause it makes so much more sense to get it. I guess I can understand like it's fine to not understand everything at the whole time, but Isayama's intention, I feel like he put it where he put it in the manga, because at that point in time we were able to understand what that whole thing means, or at least what a lot of it means. Meanwhile,
Mm-hmm.
at the point in the story where it's in the anime is like there's so much that we don't understand, and I do not like it at all.
Well, I
But
mean, it's implied that it happened within the walls.
it kind of seems like that then, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
So it was a bit confusing, but here it obviously happened beyond the walls, and
Hmm.
you understand the name drop for Ymir. It makes sense. Like, oh,
Yeah.
she was named after the goddess. Versus, they probably mentioned that, I think, in the Clash of Titans arc, but they don't. It's never like you don't understand that that's actually an important name. You
No.
know.
No.
Um, Versus Grisha and Kruger were having a chat about their great ancestor.
Right. Yeah. No, it is a great scene in the manga though, or like yeah, just with the whole context around it and all of that. I really love to get that piece of her story through that letter to Historia.
And to be fair, it's done well out of context. Like if you take that scene out in from the anime,
Hmm.
like I feel like it was done well. And the music is
Right.
gorgeous
Mm.
and all that. But yeah, to your point, it's just misplaced.
Yeah, sadly,
Um,
sadly.
but in the manga, yeah, it's impactful. Then you get Historia reading that letter and her kind of tears.
Hmm. Then there's the part where Aaron is thinking, and basically what he says in his head is, if they turned someone from a royal bloodline into a titan,
Mm-hmm.
then had me consume them, there's a possibility that I could use the power of the founding titan. I think that was later on retconned to touch instead of consume.
Hmm.
I don't think it's a translation error, if I recall.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's something that Isayama had to change. I think he changed it pretty quickly, but sadly he didn't do it until after it was, I guess, published. But
Hmm.
that is one of those little inconsistencies.
Yeah.
I know in the anime they did change it. It's not, they don't say consume there, but yeah, this is just one of those little things in the manga. But it's strange too, because we knew from, or at least based on the logic that is presented in the Clash of the Titans arc, when Eren punches Dinah's Titan hand, he's touching her. Then he's not eating her, so
Right.
it's a weird mistake to make, I feel.
Absolutely. It's like I thought they had mixed the subject. I was like, wait, don't you mean that Historia would have to eat Aaron? Like that would make sense. But Aaron has to eat Historia. No, 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 no. That's. I mean, I guess. Wait, no. Even if he did that, it wouldn't work because that's what Grisha did. Grisha ate. Um,
Oh, you're
what's
right,
her name?
Frida.
Frida.
Mm,
So, and
true.
he obviously he didn't have control of the founding titan at that point. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Mistakes were made,
Sadly, yes.
but corrected.
Anything else before they reach the ocean?
No.
Then I guess, well, Eren's last line there, he says, "Those enemies on the other side of here, if we kill them all, does that mean we'll be free?"
Yeah.
And now, of course, we know now that Eren already, well, he pretty much already knew everything at that point in time, since that was about a year
Mm.
after he had kissed Historia's hand, and he got a whole lot of visions then supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
But like yeah, just knowing the fact that he knew so much already at that point, and knowing that now that he did, it should have been a giveaway that he was going to go through with the rumbling, or it kind of feels that way when he says, "If we kill them
Right.
all of them on the other side here,"
Mm-hmm.
because I know that back when we were talking, like going through the chapters month by month, we were definitely wavering a bit back and forth on that, as I recall. Uh, but this
Yeah.
this feels like at least somewhat of a giveaway as to that. Well, pointing that he would go through with it.
Yeah. I mean, we had no idea what he could have seen at that point.
True.
So it was hard to say. But you're right. Knowing what we know now, it's like, that's what he's implying. That's what he means.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, it's kind of fate. Like what he does leads up to this moment, and he was because of what he saw, he was going to try to do everything he could to not do that. Um, but everything fell apart, and he ended up putting it in his own hands. And
Mm.
for better or for worse, they got rid of the Titan powers.
Yeah.
Only 20% of humanity left.
Yeah. Pros and cons.
Pros and cons. That's what makes it so fascinating.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, I guess that's it for the arc as a whole. But which character did you think had the most interesting character journey throughout these books?
So I think a lot of people would usually pick Edvin, and reading this, I definitely see his appeal, and his death leaves a profound impact. But for me, it's Armin, and
Hmm.
just his growth throughout the whole thing. Being able to see a character grow before your eyes is pretty phenomenal, and I think that's what exactly you see here with Armin, going from kind of being a little timid to taking the reins. Well, when he comes up with a plan, and then sacrificing himself for his friends, and yeah, for me, Armin takes the cake.
Totally fair. That's a good one. And yeah, probably no big surprise, Erwin for me. I've already probably said most of the reasons why throughout, like, oh, well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
everything he does in this arc is just amazing. From the scream at the top of the wall all the way until his talk with Levi and his speech into the Servicor recruits, his charge and his death. Just all of that, just so good, so good. Um,
Hmm.
if we're counting flashbacks, I would probably put Grisha at a very close second, though. But obviously,
Yeah.
his entire arc throughout this arc is only told through flashbacks. But it is, I
Well, I
mean,
think we could count.
it is the biggest chunk of his backstory that we get here, at least. And I do
Yeah.
think, I mean, there's definitely a progression in his character that we get to
Absolutely.
see there. So he would be a very close second, I'd say.
Yeah, I can see it as well.
Hmm.
Um, crucial part to this arc.
Absolutely. And as we said at the beginning, he kind of starts and ends the arc in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nice. But yeah, that was the Return to Shiganshina arc, the last 5 book discussion that we're having. The rest of the ones will only be 4 book discussions. Only, I say.
Hmm.
Uh,
But man, what an arc! Oh
yeah.
god, so good.
Absolutely.
And actually, one more thing I want to say is this feels like the end of a shonen with some that has some seinen in it, and
Yeah.
then in this next arc onward, it feels like a seinen with some shonen in it.
Yeah. I think I can definitely get behind that. I can't wait to talk about Attack on Titan Shippuden next month. But I and actually next month we're talking about
Believe it.
yeah. Next month we're talking about the Marley arc, which we already had a discussion about like
We did.
almost 2 years ago, was it maybe? I think it was somewhere in like maybe spring of 2020.
I think so. It had to been.
Yeah, spring of 2020. Yeah,
Had
it
to been
was it
spring.
was right
Yeah.
at the beginning of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're gonna take another look back at that next month. So, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next month when we'll talk about the Marley arc. Bye bye.
See you later.
Oh man, this wire sometimes. Ugh. My headphone wire. Like, I don't know. It kind of annoys me a little bit sometimes. Just kind of how it's. Wait, I'm gonna pull my headphones out for a second.
Okay. I can say anything I want about Petter right now, and he would never know. His name is spelt weird. Huh?
Okay, I should be able to hear you again.
Great.
Now, okay. The wire is not annoying me now.
Great.